When people talk about the origins of economic thought, almost everyone immediately thinks of Adam Smith, Karl Marx, or, if school ever really caught their interest, Aristotle. But there is a much quieter truth hidden within the Middle Ages, a truth that Western history prefers not to dwell on. Nearly 1,000 years ago, long before capitalism was named and long before central banks existed, an Islamic scholar pointed to something that lies at the heart of almost every financial crisis we experience today. He said this: "When money loses its moral compass, societies begin to rot from the inside out. And honestly, when we look at today's world, it feels like he understood humanity far better than we often assume." To understand Al-Ghazali, one of the most important thinkers of the Islamic Golden Age, you need a bit of imagination. Picture a world that feels both familiar and unfamiliar at the same time. The year is around 1100. Europe is fragmented, poor, and still struggling to break free from the grip of the Middle Ages. Meanwhile, the Islamic world stretches across a vast geography from Al-Andalus to Persia. Islamic cities are wealthy, crowded, and highly developed. Baghdad, Damascus, Cairo, these aren't just cities. They are centers of finance, money, knowledge, and trade. Trade routes are filled with caravans carrying silk, spices, textiles, and silver. Markets are alive with activity. Islamic scholars debate philosophy, law, medicine, and astronomy. Money circulates, wealth grows, and entire societies change at a pace almost no one can fully comprehend. It is right in the middle of this wealth and prosperity that Abu Hamid al-Ghazali is born in 1058 in Persian lands. He is a philosopher, a jurist, a theologian, and at the same time a remarkably blunt critic, a man who could explain the purpose of the human soul and the purpose of a monetary system in the same breath. He rises quickly, making a name for himself, and by his early 30s he occupies one of the most prestigious academic positions in the Islamic world. But that is not what truly makes Ghazali who he is. What sets him apart is his refusal to say everything is fine. Because in the middle of rising wealth and expanding markets, Ghazali senses something changing. Money is becoming more abundant, but its meaning is shrinking. The economy looks strong on the outside, yet feels as though it is beginning to decay from within. And honestly, this doesn't sound unfamiliar at all. Ghazali asks a question that almost no one else even considers. What happens when a civilization becomes rich before it becomes wise? And in searching for the answer, he turns his attention directly to money itself. This is the part that opens the eyes of many Western audiences. Ghazali was not just an Islamic religious scholar. He was one of the earliest thinkers to examine money through its moral and social dimensions. Aristotle had viewed money as a useful tool. Modern economists analyze it through numbers and equations. But Ghazali asks something different. How does money change people? How does it shape human behavior, trust, and ultimately the fate of society? To Ghazali, money was never something to be worshipped or blindly revered. It was not something to be hoarded or used as a display of power. Money was simply a tool, a means to facilitate exchange. He compared money to a mirror. A mirror has no value on its own. Its worth comes from what it reflects. Money is the same. What matters is not whether it is gold or silver, but that it allows people to come together, produce, and trade with one another. From this idea, he reaches a powerful conclusion. Money hidden under pillows is dead money. Wealth locked away in chests, forgotten, buried, or hidden, serves no real purpose and contributes nothing to society. Money that does not circulate cannot feed people, cannot expand trade, and cannot keep an economy alive. Ghazali described this as the clogging of blood flow in the veins of society. Even today, when we debate wealth inequality, we are still facing the very same problem. But Ghazali's concern was not simply greed or endless appetite. He saw the issue as systemic. When wealthy individuals pull money out of circulation, a severe form of scarcity emerges, not because money no longer exists, but because it stops moving. Prices lose balance, trade no longer functions properly, and societies suffer as a result. From here, he delivers an even harsher critique. Speculation destroys trust. Ghazali never saw those who manipulate prices or turn crises into personal opportunities as clever. To him, this was profit earned without contribution. Pure corruption. Turning human suffering into personal gain is like a poisonous infection, slowly rotting society from within. And no, Ghazali was not anti-trade. He did not reject profit. He accepted that markets are necessary for society. But the moment lies, deception, and manipulation enter the picture, trade becomes like a worm eating away at the foundations of the economy. Markets function only on trust. When trust disappears, people stop believing in one another, trade grinds to a halt, and the system collapses. Without trust, no economy can survive for long. He held deep respect for labor and effort. Money earned through honest work, he believed, strengthens a person. Money gained through deceit slowly destroys them. This may sound like a moral lesson, but the logic is simple. Societies grow stronger when people contribute and produce. Those who feed off the labor and suffering of others eventually lose their footing, and the system pushes them out. In Ghazali's thinking, responsibility does not stop with individuals. States play a central role as well. In the Middle Ages, rulers often debased currency by secretly reducing the amount of precious metal in coins to cover budget deficits. Ghazali openly called this what it was: outright theft. Why such harsh language? Because the poorest suffered the most. Their money suddenly lost value, their purchasing power evaporated, and trust in the entire system collapsed. Once people believe that even the state is cheating, trade slows, markets freeze, and the economy falls apart. According to Ghazali, the economy should be protected by the state, not manipulated by it. An unjust government is more dangerous than the bloodiest external enemy. It destroys a country not from the outside, but from within, and often without people even noticing. Ghazali reaches a clear conclusion. A society can endure poverty. It can tighten its belt and survive hardship, but it cannot endure corruption, injustice, or the destruction of trust. Economies rarely collapse because money physically disappears. Collapse begins when trust runs out, because money, at its core, is a shared belief system. The moment people lose that belief, gold or paper makes no difference. The system flips upside down. 1,000 years later, in Weimar Germany, Zimbabwe, Venezuela, Argentina, and many other places, we witnessed exactly what Ghazali warned about. Societies endured poverty, but true collapse came when trust completely vanished. People woke up one morning to find that the pieces of paper in their hands could no longer buy anything. Store shelves emptied. Wheelbarrows of cash were used to buy bread. Hyperinflation turned millionaires into beggars overnight. But the worst damage was not economic. It was social. No one trusted anyone anymore. The state had broken the currency, and no one knew what tomorrow would bring. Trade froze, barter returned, and the bonds holding society together snapped. Ghazali's warning became reality. Everything collapsed not because money disappeared, but because shared belief did. Ghazali understood human nature deeply. When people are afraid, they hoard. When greed takes over, they speculate. When they think they can get away with it, they lie and cheat. And when everyone starts doing it, they normalize it. Everyone does it. Why shouldn't I? But this is where the real danger begins. The moment a society starts seeing exploitation, deceit, and living off others as normal, the countdown to collapse has already started. From that point on, neither the economy nor social unity can survive. This is why Ghazali's message is so clear. If you want a healthy economy, you must first fix the incentives. Laws, rules, and markets matter, but none of them outweigh human behavior. If a system rewards deception instead of honesty, corruption becomes inevitable. At that point, no amount of new laws or market reforms can stop society from decaying from within. When we look at today's world, it's impossible not to recognize these patterns. Debt, rising prices, inequality, distrust. They are all different versions of the same story. Ghazali's warning from 1,000 years ago still stands vivid and alive. Once justice disappears, neither prosperity nor peace can remain. The moment people stop trusting one another, money turns to dust and markets grind to a halt. Because in the end, money is nothing more than our collective belief in shared rules and shared fairness. When that belief breaks, only ruins remain. Ghazali was not preaching from a pulpit. He was calmly describing reality. Money is not a mechanical machine made of gears and levers. It is at its core a moral ecosystem, a living structure built on honesty, trust, and justice. Once that ecosystem begins to decay, the financial system inevitably follows. Banks, stock markets, balance sheets. All of them ultimately rest on people's belief in one another and in the rules of the game. When that belief is shaken, even the strongest looking structures collapse like sandcastles. That is exactly why Ghazali still matters today, 1,000 years later. History never repeats itself exactly. But if you fail to learn its lessons, the same traps and the same mistakes have a way of finding you again. I'll continue building these bridges between the past and the present,